Welcome to the latest Detroit Lions Lone Wolves podcast, recapping an interesting week, no doubt about it, for the Detroit Lions. Some things to talk about in terms of offseason rankings, some happenings with the Detroit Lions. Had a chance to go out to Detroit Golf Club on Wednesday. Scorcher. Nice, though, not as hot as it was in previous days. My goodness. 100 degrees. How'd you guys survive? My goodness. Hopefully everybody got to at least stay cool. Hopefully everybody's air conditioning was working. Get into some pools, some boats. Stay cool out there in this scorcher of a summer. But we're going to talk about some interesting things that have been happening, recapping some news. The thing that I'm most interested in is the discussion about Dan Campbell and where he ranks. Seems to be a hot topic of conversation. And one of my articles got discussed on the radio station, and I want to defend my point of view a little bit. No, the doc, it's funny to be called Kremlin radio. That's really hilarious at this point in time. If you know anything about the doc, I think that Kremlin radio would not be something that would be used to describe how I cover the Detroit Lions. So we'll talk about it. We'll talk about Dan Campbell and where he should slot in as an NFL head coach. Sam LaPorta does not attend tight end university this year. It's interesting. He's been a staple, and there's an interesting reason why. Doesn't mean the Detroit Lions are truly blessed. We'll talk about it. And then to end the podcast this week, Jared Goff is going to be featured in the docuseries. I want to kind of give my thoughts on what I want to see over the course of 7-8 episodes. Jared Goff leading the Detroit Lions, dealing with the injury, dealing with how, unfortunately, things went down in a tough season throughout the 2025 season, the 2024 season. It's going to be real interesting to see what's featured, how Jared Goff is portrayed as a leader, as somebody who's been able to lead this football team to playoff wins. But unfortunately, the tough loss there in 2023. Then you go to 2024 and you take a step back. 2023 was a great season for the Detroit Lions. 2024 was epic through the regular season, but then there was a letdown. So I want to give my reaction on what I want to see over the course of a couple episodes, and hopefully Jared Goff gets a lot of time. Typically 7-8 episodes, we'll see a lot of Jared Goff and how he's going to be featured. But let's get right into it. Dan Campbell was ranked as the 9th best returning NFL head coach. So I felt like that was a little bit disrespectful. Now, let's set the table. Dan Campbell just literally led his squad to a 15-2 record. Now, there's talent all across the board. No question. Brad Holmes has done a stellar job with the player personnel department in stacking an offense full of talent. Sam LaPorta, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jamison Williams, who emerged in 2024, Jared Goff entering the prime of his career. So there's some weapons, no doubt about it. Yeah, the credit also should be spread to the coordinators. Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson definitely grew as coordinators. But you got to remember, the Detroit Lions defense was decimated by injury. When I flew out to Dallas, it was an exciting time. It was a drubbing. The Detroit Lions were able to go out to Dallas and just literally dominate the Dallas Cowboys in front of the whole country on Jerry Jones' birthday. Happy birthday, Jerry. You got your team. Your team gets pounded by the Detroit Lions. But unfortunately, before the half, Aiden Hutchinson goes down. At that moment, you just think, season's over. The Detroit Lions 2024 season ends right there. At AT&T Stadium, it's over. But nope, the Detroit Lions kept it going. And then they suffered injury after injury. Many players went to IR. Ali McNeil tears his ACL. Malcolm Rodriguez is gone. Derek Barnes. Key members of your defense just dropped. Alex Anzalone fractures his forearm. That team should not have won 15 games with all the injuries. Any other NFL team would have struggled to make the postseason, not Dan Campbell's squad. That, to me, warrants a little bit more respect heading into the future. Now, I know there's levels of accomplishment, but I think that when you rank NFL head coaches, I think right now, when you say, all right, let's look at the PFF list, I think right now, clearly those that were ranked ahead of Dan Campbell have accomplishments on their resume. Sean Payton winning a Super Bowl, Mike Tomlin, Kyle Shanahan getting there. But right now, I think Dan Campbell, in terms of his knowledge of an offense, that led, to one of the highest scoring offenses, scored on over 50% of offensive drives last year. I think he's in the top 5, not ninth. I think right now he's better than Sean Payton, better than Mike Tomlin, better than Kyle Shanahan. Move him up 3 spots, at worst 6th. But I do think that clearly, Nick Sirianni getting a lot out of the talent, Andy Reid, some of the great coaches that are out there. But you could argue right now that Dan Campbell is the 3rd best NFL head coach right now. And that's not Kremlin radio. That's crediting somebody that took an organization. You do get credit for coming in 2021, 3 wins, and the next year, 9 wins. That's Dan Campbell's a part of that. What level of credit does he deserve for putting the team in the right spot? Now, maybe he doesn't get a lot of the credit externally for being an X's and O's wizard. Many people view him as a motivational genius, but he does understand the concepts of football to the point that Ben Johnson became an NFL head coach, working with Dan Campbell, talking through scenarios, learning. Dan Campbell made Ben Johnson, not the other way around, as people kind of want to romanticize. No, Ben Johnson didn't make Dan Campbell. It's the other way around. Dan Campbell made Ben Johnson. And that's why, Mr. Ben Johnson is going to be sending Dan Campbell a Christmas card every year for the hefty over $10 million per year salary that he makes. He will forever be grateful for what was imparted on him, the knowledge offensively that Sean Payton passed down to Dan Campbell, that Dan Campbell passed down to Ben Johnson. It's not the other way around. So I would be hard-pressed to believe that Dan Campbell's offense is going to dip below top 5. So to me, it's not Kremlin radio to say that Dan Campbell is not the 9th best returning NFL head coach. It's not the case. I think Kyle Shanahan gets a lot of credit for appearing in the Super Bowl. But did you guys remember what happened in the Super Bowl? A lead. All you had to do was run the ball as the offensive coordinator. Run the ball. Call the run. It didn't happen. And Tom Brady was able to orchestrate one of the greatest comebacks in NFL history. Why? Because Kyle Shanahan's offense decided that it would not be a great idea to pound the football with a great lead in the second half, giving Tom Brady more and more of an opportunity. Then with San Francisco, Shanahan is underachieving with the talent that he's had. Clearly, I think you give Dan Campbell, Kyle Shanahan's talent, they're a winning team. Super Bowl. Multiple, maybe, Super Bowls with that team that Kyle Shanahan had. So I look at it like not Kremlin radio to say that Dan Campbell deserves to be higher than 9th. But I can get it, the word disrespected, being included in the list. But if you say out of the 10 coaches that were listed, I think Dan Campbell's better than 3 or 4 of them. And I think that he's looking at, you could legitimately argue that Dan Campbell is the 3rd, 4th, 5th best NFL head coach, no worse than 5th in the entire league. So, yeah, there's a lot of teams, a lot of coaches with accomplishments. But in 2025, I wouldn't, want any other coach right now for the Detroit Lions other than Dan Campbell. Point blank. Am I wrong? Was Mike Valeni of 97 won the ticket right that people talking about Dan Campbell being ranked higher is wrong? It's looking through a lens of positivity that he thinks is unfair, that he thinks is not warranted, that it's way too positive. I disagree. I don't think that Dan Campbell's the 9th. It's just a simple disagreement. But trust me, Lions on His Eye is not Kremlin radio. It's funny. But I wrote the headline that I felt was warranted based on the ranking that you saw, especially given the fact that the Lions have played the Rams. They played Sean McVay. Lions have come out on top. Sean McVay, not aggressive. Dan Campbell, aggressive. How many playoff wins do the Pittsburgh Steelers have recently? I'll wait. Dan Campbell's better. I think that, when you really take a step back and you don't play the contrarian role, you take a look at Dan Campbell and give him more credit just for the mere fact that the team went from 3 to 9 to 12 to 15 wins. That's a nice upward trajectory that gets you mentions. I think that, outside of, the greats of the game right now, the ones that are winning Super Bowls consistently, Sirianni and Andy Reid, you can point blank put Dan Campbell right there in the mix. Not 9th, 3rd. All right, let's turn our attention to Sam LaPorta. Does not attend TEU, Tight End University, a staple on the NFL calendar recently, where a lot of the game's great tight ends get together, talk about the position, how to play it best, how to work with the parameters of an offense, learning what defenses are trying to do to limit the great emerging skill of tight ends led by George Kittle. You realize, my goodness, these tight ends have been able to go out there and really hone their craft and become a staple of offenses. And Sam LaPorta has been a regular attendee. Not this year. Why? It was interesting to find out that Sam LaPorta is not attending. Shane Zylstra in the past has attended. Brock Wright in the past has attended. LaPorta as well, like I mentioned. But this year, Zylstra is the only Lions representative at the tight end spot that's going to tight end U. Well, Sam LaPorta got married. So congratulations to him and his family. The newlyweds are honeymooning. So that's a good excuse not to be able to attend, positional training at the highest level with those that are the game's greats. But a picture surfaced. My goodness. Doesn't mean divine intervention is going to potentially happen for the Detroit Lions. Hell, we all know that at one point or another, fingers were crossed and everybody got on their hands and knees and were like, one time, please, especially in the second half against the San Francisco 49ers. You were like, one time, don't choke it away, as we were watching the Detroit Lions choke away their single greatest opportunity to get to the Super Bowl. You were going, please, God, one time, let the Detroit Lions do something. And where was God then? Well, a photo surfaced of the Detroit Lions' best tight end taking a photograph with the Pope, the new Pope. And the photo surfaced. Sam LaPorta and his new bride were blessed and got an opportunity to meet with the new Pope. Now, the Pope, from what you hear, is supposedly from Chicago. And so he should be a Bears fan. Now, is this in reverse? Is he secretly a Bears fan and is going to jinx the Detroit Lions? I doubt it, but I know you guys thought it. Could the divine power, work against the Detroit Lions? I don't think so. I think that, the new Pope gave his blessing for health and for a great marriage. And with that supreme happiness, that means that at this point in time, the luck factor is now going to be in Sam LaPorta's favor. Big season ahead, big record, receptions, touchdowns. He's got the divine intervention on his side. Do I think that this is potentially now great news for the Detroit Lions? Absolutely. Sam LaPorta went there, got some prayers answered. Hopefully that some good luck will happen in terms of his health, in terms of his ability to stay healthy on the field, and to have a nice, happy, long marriage. So you can get a pass for not advancing the career at this point in time. What new is Sam LaPorta going to learn? But I will say this, there's a new tight ends coach. I'm curious to see how the Lions coaching staff works with Sam LaPorta in 2025, because the Lions got to get a lot more out of their key talent in 2025, because I think that Sam LaPorta was a player that you look at and you say, I think you get a lot more than just being a blocking tight end and being involved in the passing game. You got to be a focal point in that passing game. I truly believe that Sam LaPorta can be a weapon. And now the opportunity presents itself for him to be in the presence of the Pope. That means, hey, we all saw that, and everybody's like, all right, the Lions are now blessed too. And you got to remember too, the Lions pray quite a bit. Religion is an important factor of, one of their, I think, selection criteria, that they do favor guys that are religious, that are willing to pray before and after games, and you see Dan Campbell kneeling before the videos that are posted after the game, praying for the organization, the team, and the health of the players, being thankful for those that survive each and every NFL game. I always love seeing NFL players that get on one knee, pray together. Even in the middle of the field, opposition will get together. So Sam LaPorta, definitely religion is an important aspect of his life. And you hope that one time, someone listening out there, because last year you could argue, what the heck was going on there? What the heck was going on? Where was the divine intervention last year? 2023, second half. Seemed like every decision that Dan Campbell made flopped. What was going on? It's time. Dang it, Josh Reynolds, catch the ball. Where was the divine intervention? Keep the ball in Josh Reynolds' hand. Drop. Oh. All right, we won't get in trouble here, but for sure the DOC has said what the hell in his head several times. he's used the Lord's name in vain in the press box in his head. What the mother is going on here with this? That Justin Tucker field goal right there in my face. No, I couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe that Baltimore kicker was able to do that. Couldn't believe that Edinger. I was sitting there too, back at the Silverdome. Ended a regime. Ended the simple task for the Detroit Lions. Win, beat the Bears, and you're in the playoffs. Nope. Gary Moeller gets fired, and we're ushered into one of the worst eras in Detroit Lions history. I was there to watch that. Pain. Is it fair then to say I should question the big man upstairs? I'm religious. Should I question the big man upstairs? I haven't yet. But looking at it now, Sam LaPorta has put that in my vision. Is the big man upstairs a hater? I hope not. You knows I prayed quite a bit. But have I prayed hard enough for the Lions? Big man upstairs, if you're listening, it's about time to pay us back for all the heartache you've given the Detroit Lions through all the great things happen through the Lord above, most people believe. What the heck is having happened? What you been doing? Turn your attention. I know world peace is important, world hunger, big time stuff. Can you just slice a little bit of time for the 2025 Detroit Lions? Can they remain healthy? Can they have the quarterback not fall flat on his face in the playoffs? Can J-Mo play 17 games and become a superstar? Those are the things I'd ask for, but I'm sure Sam LaPorta was a little bit more respectful and not dropping about 50 requests for the Detroit Lions, but that's what I'll do. One time, answer the prayers, answer the call. Big man upstairs, answer the call. The whole community has been talking to you, wishing, hoping. 2025, maybe it's the year after the tight end meets the new pope. Better not be blessing those Chicago Bears. Better be hoping that they take a turn for the worse with Ben Johnson. Let's see what happens. But the date has been set. Jared Goff is going to be featured in the Netflix docuseries Quarterbacks. And the second go around is going to be really interesting with Joe Burrow, with the likes of Jared Goff, Kirk Cousins. I'm very curious to see what is showcased. I thought the trailer was excellent. I thought that being able to see Jared Goff talking about, turning the tide with his career, that many people felt like once he was traded from the Rams that it was over, that he was a throwaway. But Brad Holmes has said it repeatedly. Jared Goff was not a throwaway. He was coveted by the Lions. They felt like the parameters when Dan Campbell probably talked to Brad Holmes, they looked at the film of Jared Goff and Dan Campbell said, I can work with this. I can work with this player. We can build around the skills of this player. That's something that's very special, is to take a player, see his skill set, and then build around him. Ben Johnson constructed an offense that built on the skill set of a player that was super smart, can get the ball out quick, can read defenses, and can have a mid-range, excellent passing game, and can help move an offense to some very, very elevated statistical achievements. And so I want to see, hopefully the taping was throughout the 2024 season, and you get a chance to see his reaction to the tough times, all those injuries, knowing that, all right, it's on the offense. He knew. I thought a scene that was really powerful was kind of the talk of probably going into the 2024 season. All the expectation was Super Bowl or bust. And I think he answers his now wife, Kristen Harper, she asks him, is that, what do you feel about having to deal with that pressure? Is that too much? And he's like, no, you embrace that as an athlete, as a professional. I want to see how he, handles the weight of the world on a player's shoulder, the knowing that every single game you're getting the best from your opponent's defense, knowing that, hey, Jared Goff had himself quite a bit of excellence in terms of his first half passing numbers in a lot of these games. My goodness, you guys know the games in which he was just excelling in prime time, just lighting it up against the Packers, being able to compete at a high level. Remember, 15-2 last year, 15-2 record. And you realize that the Detroit Lions had one of their most special seasons. So you're going to get an inside look. It's going to be great. You're going to see probably the inner workings of his dynamics with Dan Campbell, with Brad Holmes, with Ben Johnson, how he deals with Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jamison Williams, the growing connection with the offense, the offensive line. You're Probably going to see a little bit of that relationship with Frank Ragnow, dealing with so much stuff, and how Jared Goff deals with the tough times, deals with each and every week being peppered and asked about the team's growing expectations and trying to sell the outside world that the Detroit Lions were legitimate. And then, unfortunately, something you're going to see. I don't know. I think I'm ready for it, but maybe it is too soon. But how the team handled the week leading up to the Commanders, the hype. He had a great press conference that was full of hope, and then you get to the game, and right away it's not right. You do see a scene where he's like, "Hey, put it on me. I want the challenge." You start to see the leader emerge. And I think that's what's going to come out of this. Is Jared Goff's going to come out of this looking like a supreme leader that everybody's going to rally around. I do think that the Jared Goff chants will be talked about, and how much the city of Detroit embraced him. All great things. But also, too, the other side, elevated expectations and the heartbreak of an upset loss to the Commanders, getting rocked early, not looking right. What does Dan Campbell say? What is the message after the game? How does he feel? How does he handle the immediate impact? Hopefully you talk about it right from there. You're clearly going to see Joe Burrow battle all the way till the very, very end of the season to try and get into the postseason. So there's going to be some emotionality, I think, in this series. It's going to be powerful. It's going to be impactful. I think that there's no way I see this series being put together that doesn't make Jared Goff look like a supreme leader, rally around him. Let's go into 2025 with a great season, because 2024 was a bunch of hope and a bunch of overcoming with the offense carrying the defense a little bit. But 2025 is also the same. Super Bowl or bust for Jared Goff. But he's going to come away, I think, looking stellar, looking absolutely stellar for the Detroit Lions. And so I'm excited. I'm excited to see how much he's featured. And also, too, I'm excited to see, a little bit of the, interactions that he has with the media. He had a little message for Tom Brady. I thought it was great because Tom Brady, in covering the Detroit Lions, had an opportunity to see some of their games. And he was just like, I would love to come back and run this offense. And Tom Brady in 2024, when he got a chance to see the Detroit Lions, had to be impressed. Had to be impressed with what Ben Johnson was doing in terms of play calling, the ability to set up opponents' defenses. So Tom Brady was impressed. You had to be impressed with the Detroit Lions offense in 2024. One of the highest scoring offenses in the league in terms of efficiency. The highest scoring offense in terms of efficiency, scoring on over 50% of their drives in regards to field goals and touchdowns. No other team was north of 40. So the Detroit Lions offense was prolific in being able to put points on the board. Over 50% of their drives led in points. It led to points. So Tom Brady was like, this offense is something I could work with. This looks fun. This looks like Ben Johnson's putting these guys in the best position to understand how to pick apart a defense. Well, Jared Goff was like, sorry, Tom, you're retired. That's not your spot. Your spot is to figure out what the heck to do with the Raiders. That should take up 25 hours a day of your time, even though it's only 24. Nope, it's my team. And I like that. A little bit of fun, poking fun in a lighthearted manner. I look forward to hopefully seeing the interaction that Jared Goff had with Tom Brady when the primetime games occurred and that were being covered, and when Tom Brady was announcing Detroit Lions games. But yeah, Jared Goff owns the Detroit Lions. It's his team. It's his offense. And now with John Morton, it's even more of a great dynamic because John Morton helped to put this offense in place. So Jared Goff has a friendly message for Tom Brady. Sorry, too late. You made the decision to retire. This team is nowhere going to be run by Tom Brady. And it was interesting at the time when Tom Brady was considering moving on from the Patriots. There was some whispers, not loud, but maybe could the Lions make a run after Stafford to Tom Brady? But quickly, when he went to Tampa Bay, those rumors were put to bed, and that discussion was like just kind of whimpered away. But it was always interesting to see the talk and see how people took that kind of talk and narrative. All right, real fast, lighthearted. On Wednesday, had a chance to go out to the Detroit Golf Club, and it was awesome, man. That place is great. The golf course, to be out there on a Wednesday, you get your steps in, walked over 4 miles, hung out with the fellas at Crunch Time Sports, talked about golf, talked about the games of some of the game's greats, Keegan Bradley, Colin Morikawa, got to sit in the media room as Colin Morikawa was trashing and ripping on a media member who was asking questions about his caddy on the first hole and talking about the quotes, framing it in a way that maybe put out a narrative that Colin Morikawa didn't like. So that was interesting. But the thing that I wanted to see was, all right, let's see the Detroit Lions in a different light. Jason Hansen, Jack Fox, Jake Bates, Hogan Hatton out there at the 10th hole. And a course that I've played now twice, broken 100, barely. But being able to kind of move it around with open fairways. My weakness is putting and chipping, the skill part where that you don't get to practice much. You can practice drives to relatively get it to where you need to go. It's the rest of the skill positions that you don't practice. Well, you get a chance to kind of see these guys in a different light. And you got to see the Red Wings as well really be friendly with the fans. Jerome Bettis, everybody that asked for an autograph, they were taking pictures and hugging and sharing. High fives and quick smiles with the fan base that went out there to see him. And so now they got to step up. Now, of course, they're not playing the tips. The pros, Ben Griffin, my goodness, I think he's got a legitimate chance. But Hogan Hatton steps up there and, I gave him a little fist bump. And I said, how you hitting him lately? And he's like, he shared that he won, I think a club tournament or was involved in an event at the Franklin Club and or a Franklin event is how he put it. He was excited. He was excited to get up there. So he gets up there and he's ready to go. And he hits a snap hook that was nasty. Just like how we do. Snap hook in the trees. I look at the caddy. I'm like, that's a gun, right? He's like, the caddy's like, oh yeah, that's a snap hook. That's gone. So then Fox gets up there. Athletic, looks strong. He does the exact same thing. Snap hook. You're like, oh, the punter and the holder. Snap hook on the 10th. Oof. Ugly. And then the kickers roll up. And would you know that Jake Bates can crush that golf ball? That his swing was smooth, athletic, and he was able to handle business in the fairway. Now, his was a little bit more of a mechanical swing, not as fluid. Smooth as silk, Jason Hansen gets up there, smooth drive, looking like he's been enjoying retirement out there on the golf course. So the kickers dominated in regards to the first couple holes that I got to see. You realize that at that point in the day, I had other obligations to do this podcast, other content with Detroit Lions on SI. So I left and did not stay for the whole 9 holes that they played. But it was fun to see golfers in a different light. My goodness, DeBrincat and Dylan Larkin can swing the club. Now, they were just distance control was terrible. If they had 120 yards in, they were bombing at 140. They were over the green like 3-4 times. All right, guys, come on, caddies. I was telling the fellas, man, these caddies got to tell these guys to dial it down. Like they were flying the green, but it was fun to watch them have a good time. Now, I saw one chunk from, now this will be the tease. And if you're right, I'll acknowledge you in the comments. Everybody that I saw could swing the golf club. Now, one of these guys, Hogan Hatton, Jake Bates, Hogan Hatton, Jack Fox, Jason Hansen, Jerome Bettis, Barry Sanders, Dylan Larkin, Alex DeBrincat. One of those guys, Detroiters, got up there in a fairway, got their waggle on, and chunked it 10 yards in front of everybody. Popular person. Who do you think it was? I'm not going to name him. In the comments, who chunked the ball at Detroit Rocket, at the Detroit Golf Club in front of everybody? I laughed to the side because, I've done the same thing. We've all done it. You all know it. You get there, you get your waggle on, and you just take a full swing, and the divot goes farther than your ball. And I laughed, and I walked on and said, the chunk got you. Who did it? Was it Larkin? DeBrincat? Was it DeBoss? Barry Sanders? Older player? Was it Hogan Hatton taking a big swing and taking a big chunk of the earth? Who was it? Who do you think messed it all up? That tells me who listened to the end, and I will share the correct answer a couple days after this drops. But that's what I did. It was fun to see. I wish I could have stayed longer to interview the guys, but Hogan said that he was getting out there, and he looked like he understood the purpose of the mission, to have a good time and to engage with the fan base. So thanks, everyone, for tuning in to the latest Lone Wolves podcast. Thank you guys for enjoying the content, liking the interviews, liking what's been going on. Check out the All Grit team, the All 21st Century team at Lions on SI features. still going at it, but just on a lighter pace for me, a little bit heavier for Christian and Vito. But we're still going after it every single day. A couple podcasts a week, video content, content related to the Detroit Lions rankings, all the good fun stuff that we do in the offseason for before. In a couple of weeks, we'll start to turn the page, maybe just a little bit after the 4th of July. We'll start to turn the page to the training camp preview. Let us know what you think. What's on your mind? What do you want me to record about? Let us know in the comments. Please like the video, share it. Let everybody know that the Detroit Lions websites and beat writers are still covering the team at a very in-depth pace. And now we're going to turn the page ever so slowly to training camp previews after the 4th of July break. I'm John Macaron. Thanks for listening. Share, like, subscribe, comment. Let's interact. I appreciate everybody tuning in. And this has been the latest Detroit Lions Lone Wolves podcast. We'll come back next week with more.